Salam everyone. Welcome to God's Level Earth, Episode 7. Allah originates the creation, then He repeats it, and the scattering and the gathering of the moving creatures. Important note, please watch Episode 6, Allah gives life to the earth after its death, before you watch this video. And if it's been a long time and you can't remember the video, please watch it again before you watch this video. So, what is a dabatan? The root is dab, which means to move. Daba, a thing that moves, goes, proceeds, or advances. We would translate it as the moving creatures. So what are some types of dabatan? Quran 24:45. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. And Allah has created from water every moving creature. Then of them, from them, who moves on its bellies, and of them who moves on two legs, and of them who walks on four. Allah creates what He wills. Indeed, Allah is over everything all powerful. So these are just examples. Allah is telling us that He created from water, every moving creature, and some of them move on their bellies, some of them two legs, some of them four legs. Allah creates what He wills. This doesn't mean that you only have these types. These are just some examples. Because it says, and of them, from them. So from the moving creatures is this, from them is this, and from them is this. That doesn't mean that's all of them. So 42:29. And among His signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and whatever He has scattered in both of them, of the moving creatures. And He over their gathering, whenever He wills, is all capable. The moving creatures are scattered in both the heavens and the earth. As you can see, it says, and among His signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and whatever He has scattered in both of them. So a lot of people think that when it talks about the daba of the heavens, they think like aliens and life on other planets. But the Quran is clear that the daba of the heavens includes birds. Do they not see towards the birds? Controlled in the midst, jawi of the sama. None keeps them from falling except Allah. Indeed, in that are signs for people who believe. The Quran is informing us that there's birds in the jawi sama, in the midst of the sama. It is part of the heaven. So those are the scattered creatures in the heavens, the birds. Because if it just said among His signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and what He scattered in the earth, while birds do come down and land and walk around on the ground, it wouldn't be including the countless number of birds or wind creatures currently in the heavens. As this verse informs us, did they not see towards the birds controlled in the jawi sama, so in the midst of the sama. So it's part of the heaven where the birds are. Then you also have 638, which says, and not from the moving creatures in the earth, nor a bird who flies with its two wings, except it is in communities like you. So a lot of people think that this verse proves that the birds aren't part of the daba, because it says, and not from the daba and the birds. So they think there's a separation. But you have to notice it says, and not from the daba in the earth. So it's only, the first part's only talking about the daba that are in the earth. So that wouldn't be including the daba that's currently in the heavens. That's why it says, nor a bird who flies with its two wings, because it's a bird that's currently in the process of flying, except it is in communities like you. If Allah had left it at daba in the earth and not from the daba in the earth, birds would still technically be included because they land, perch, walk, they move on the earth, but birds spend significant time away from the earth flying in the sky. People might overlook birds and think they are not included as being part of communities. The birds are mentioned separately, not because they are not daba, but because they also occupy another realm of the sky. The first mention is focused on creatures moving upon the earth, daba. Birds are unique because they land and are technically daba. Their primary action is flying. Thus, the verse mentions them separately, not to exclude them from daba, but to clarify their special mode of movement in the sky with wings. And not from the daba in the earth, so this is currently all the daba that's currently on the earth, nor a bird that flies with its wings. So it's not separating birds from daba, it's just informing us, it's including the birds that are flying that aren't currently in the earth at that time. So they're still daba. Quick note, the verse says that the animals are in communities like you, referring to humans. Just as humans vary, nations, tribes, small families, and solitary individuals, so do animals. We know that there are animals that live in solitary. This is the distinction. It doesn't say all creatures are in communities, therefore removing the possibility of a solitary animals. It says communities like you, or ummas, nations. In the same way, there are humans who are also solitary as well. So just like humans, how we have humans that are in nations, tribes, small families, and solitary, the animals are the same. Different varying sizes of communities. And even we know in the Quran, one person can be a ummah, one person can be a community, a nation. So this also includes fish. because among his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth and what he has scattered in both of them. The moving creatures are scattered in the earth. This includes fish because they are found in rivers, lakes, oceans, which are on in the earth. And we sent down from the sky water and measured, then we caused it to settle in the earth. And he is the one who spread the earth and placed in it firm mountains and rivers. So the fish are Daba of the earth. So the gathering of the Daba, the verse says, and among his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and whatever he scattered in both of them of the moving creatures, and he over their gathering, whenever he wills, is all capable. The Quran is informing us that Allah is capable of gathering the Daba whenever he wills. This Arabic word means their gathering or the gathering of them. In classical Arabic, the word is used contextually to refer to bringing together what was previously dispersed, reuniting scattered individuals or groups, collecting dispersed things, whether people, animals, or creatures, into one place. This verse emphasizes God's ongoing and active ability to gather together the living creatures as he has scattered across the heavens and the earth. It is a sign of his limitless power and precise control of the creation. I have created a document that explains this sign. I will leave a link in the description and the comments. Please save it and read it. Basically, if you research the gathering systems of animals, you will see that Allah is the one who guides and brings them together. Please read this document. It'll be provided in the description and the comments, inshallah. The scattered moving creatures, indeed in the creation of the heavens and the earth, and what Allah has sent down from the sky of water, then giving life to the earth after its death, and the scattering therein of every moving creature, and the directing of the winds and the clouds control between the sky and the earth are surely signs for a people of reason. So you can see it talks about the scattering therein of every moving creature is a sign. So I just asked ChatGPT, how many individual creatures are there on the earth? We have 10 quintillion insects that Allah has scattered, 3.5 trillion fish, 50 billion birds, 130 billion mammals, and an unknown amount of reptiles and amphibians in the billions. So there's a lot of animals that Allah has scattered in the heavens and the earth. And of course, Allah knows best their true number, but there's a lot of them. Like, think about all the ants, the fish, and everything. There's a lot of numbers, a lot of them. And Allah scattered them throughout the heavens and the earth. One of his signs. The next part requires you to have watched and also remember the previous episode, episode 6, Allah brings life to the earth after its death. If you haven't seen it in a while, please rewatch it. It talks about how Allah sends down water from the heavens and gives life to the earth using the water. So here are some of the verses just as a reminder. Know, be aware, realize, understand that Allah gives life to the earth after its death. Indeed, we have made clear to you the signs so that you may understand, use reason. So look at the effects of Allah's mercy, how He gives life to the earth after its death. Indeed, that are surely signs. He gives life to the dead, and He is on everything all-powerful. In the last episode, we talked about how Allah sends down rain in the dead deserts, and plant life, insects, and animal life appears, and even ponds and lakes will form, and fish appear in them, even though no seeds can be found and there aren't any insects or fish around originally. So I wanted to give you an example from Australia. In Australia, in the middle of the desert, about once every 10 years, it'll rain a lot, which causes a lot of flooding and a lot of water to hit those areas, and a lot of stuff happens. Australia's diverse and often arid landscapes are characterized by numerous locations where shallow lakes and rivers emerge after rainfall events, leading to sudden appearance of a wide array of plants and animals. These areas, often referred to as ephemeral wetlands or temporary lakes, are significant ecological phenomena, particularly in arid and semi-arid regions like the Murray-Darling Basin in northern Australia. These areas, such as billabongs, lakes, and lagoons, can lie dormant and dry for extended periods, only to burst with life when sufficient water arrives. Australia's outback, despite its aridity, can experience rapid booms of vegetation and emergence of aquatic life in salt pans, riverbeds, and clay pans after rainfall, with blue-green algae, rapia, and milfoil flourishing in these temporary waters. During die periods, many aquatic organisms either leave die or hibernate, with their nutrients restoring to the soil. When rain replenishes the wetlands, microorganisms, plants, and algae reproduce, following invertebrates, amphibians, fish, and birds, rapidly repopulating the areas. You have completely dead desert, it rains, and life booms. Insects, fish, frogs, amphibians, birds come to the area. They migrate there to eat. Following heavy rainfall and flooding in Australia deserts, insect populations can significantly increase, with some species appearing in areas that are not typically found. This surge in insects is due to availability of water and favorable breeding conditions, which include increased food sources like vegetation and animal dung. So basically, it rains, boom, a bunch of insects appear. A bunch of lakes and rivers form, and ponds form, and fish appear. And then all the birds fly over and start eating, and vegetation starts growing, and different types of plants. The scattering of the moving creatures. Indeed, in the heavens and the earth are surely signs for the believers, and in your creation and what he scatters, disperses. So this is present tense. What he is scattering, what he scatters of the moving creatures are signs for people who are certain. So this is present tense, ongoing and active practice. This verse informs us that Allah is always in the present, scattering the moving creatures, and what he scatters, disperses in the present of the moving creatures are signs for people who are certain. So there are two ways animals are scattered. So reproduction based, the method everyone knows about. And from everything we have created in pairs that you may remember. And then you also have creation and restoration, which will be explained now, the way people don't really know about. So originating and repeating creation. Do they not see how Allah begins, originates the creation, created beings? Then after he repeats it, indeed that for Allah is easy. So the word here, this Arabic word here, means to begin, to start, to initiate, to originate. The root revolves around the concept of starting something, being the first, or originating something that it did never existed before, that did not exist before. So when Allah originates the creation, he creates something that didn't exist before. Then after that, he repeats it. This word here means to return something, to bring something back after it has ceased to exist, to repeat, to restore, to do again. He restores, bring back, repeats. So this can be bringing back something after it ceased to exist, or restore something after reduction or change. Then after that, he brings back. And a very important note, these words are in present tense, not past tense. So this is something that we can see and Allah is doing in the present moment. The thing. So if we go now, you can see here, do they not see how Allah originates and begins the creation? I put here causes to start what did not exist before, which is this. He's creating something that didn't exist before. Then after that, he brings back something that ceased to exist. Then after that, he brings it back again. After it ceases to exist or replenishes after reduction. Bringing something back which existed before. Specifically creation. And you also have these three verses, additional verses which say the same thing. Are there any of your partners who begins and originates creation? Say Allah begins and originates creation, he brings it back again. You can see three more verses. So you can see here 29:19 says, do they not see? So you can see Allah beginning and originating creation, causing to start that which did not exist before. You can see Allah creating, beginning, originating new creations. Then after he brings it back again, you can also see him bringing back things that ceased to exist or replenish something after reduction. In simpler terms, Allah does not create once and then stop. He is always beginning and restoring the creation. So we have a look here. Do they not see how Allah originates, begins the creation, the created beings? So what does it mean when he's originating creation? What is Allah originating creation? It involves Allah creating new creations that it did not exist before. And this is something we can realize and see, especially creating new animals and plants. He does this by sending down water from the sky and bringing forth new animals using the water, animals and plants that it did not exist before. To start, to begin, to originate, to initiate, to bring something for the first time that it did not exist before. So what does that look like? What that is humans are actually discovering 10,000 to 12,000 new animals every year. 90% are invertebrates, mostly insects. You have 200, 250 new fish, mammals 40 to 50, birds, reptiles, amphibians 100 to 200. Deep sea creatures, a small but growing proportion annually because they're hard to find. So 10,000 to 12,000 animals per year are completely new discoveries that were never cataloged or genetically recognized before. Most of these are not new discoveries. They are new animals that Allah has created. But mainstream science cannot admit they are new because that refutes the theory of evolution. Instead, it labels them as newly discovered. 10,000 to 12,000 new animal discoveries every year is not a small amount. This is Allah originating creation, starting creations that did not exist before. And He is always creating completely new animals every day that never existed before. This is Allah originating creation, which, as the verse says, is something we can see. Do they not see how He begins, originates creation, created beings? We are constantly finding new animals, right? But according to the theory of evolution, you can't have new species of animals popping up every day. So the cope is, well, they were always there. We just never saw them before. So that's why they that's why they are labeled as new discoveries, with the emphasis of they've always been there, but we've just never seen them. They're new discoveries, and most of them are new creations. But now he also creates new plants. So we're discovering about 2,000 new plant species every year. We have also discovered 2,000 new plant species every year. Many of these are also newly created plants that did not exist before. This is Allah originating creation, which, as the verse says, is something we can see. Do they not see how Allah begins, originates something that did not exist before, of the creation of the created beings? So, what does it mean to repeat, to bring back creation? What is Allah repeating the creation? To bring back creation which has ceased to exist examples. So for example, if you have a dead land and Allah gives it life, He's restoring all the life there. That's Him repeating it. And these are animals and plants which have existed before. For example, you could have a land. It dries up completely and everything dies. 100 years later, 10 years, 50 years later, Allah sends down the rain and He brings back the same animals and plants. This is Allah bringing back the creation, repeating it. Winter or extreme weather might kill some of the animals, insects, and then when winter ends and spring comes and the rain comes and everything starts to grow back, Allah might bring back in the spring through the rain the animals that existed before. An animal might go extinct and Allah can bring it back. There are examples of animals which go extinct and suddenly are randomly found by people. Like no one sees them for a while and they just appear again out of nowhere. Restore creation, so replenish after reduction. If a population of animal gets low, Allah can restore it by creating more of that animal directly from the water to help bring its population levels back up. So now I want to give you a lot of examples of Allah originating and repeating the creation. So you have example one, Galapagos Islands. The Galapagos Islands were formed by volcanic activity. It's located about 600 miles off the coast of Ecuador in the Eastern Pacific Ocean. It's a volcano that erupted in the ocean. The lava hardened and formed the island. So think of a volcano erupting in the middle of the ocean. The lava went up and hardened and formed the islands. The island has both plant life and animal life. My question is, how did the plant and animal life get there? This is an island which was never connected to the other continents. It's an island that formed in the middle of the ocean by volcanic activity and now has plants and animal life. So if you look here, yes, there are insects on Galapagos Islands. While the number of insect species is relatively low compared to mainland Ecuador, around 1,000 species compared to over 1,000,000, they still play a significant role in the ecosystem. Many of the insects found there are endemic, meaning they are found nowhere else in the world. So you have a volcano that erupted in the middle of the ocean, hardening and creating islands, now has insects on it, remember originating creation, that are found nowhere else in the world, only on those islands. You have here animals found exclusively on Galapagos Island: the giant tortoise, marine iguana, flightless cormorant, Galapagos penguin, Darwin's finches. Other academic species include the Galapagos sea lion and Galapagos fur seal, the Galapagos hawk, lava lizards, and many other unique birds, reptiles, and marine life. There is so much unique life on these islands, right? So what happened was volcano erupted, the land hardened, it rained, and Allah brought forth all the life. The plants that are there, the animals that are there. The Galapagos Islands has diverse flora, including 500 plant species, with about 1/3 being endemic, meaning these are plants found nowhere else. Includes the giant scarlet daisy trees and the vercous cacti like the pearly pink and the lava cactus. So how did the animals get there? Many theories exist regarding the unique nature of the flora and fauna on the Galapagos Islands. A popularly held belief is that the original species that evolved into the unique Galapagos variety found their way to the islands on flotation rafts of vegetation and other waste, and were carried to the island via wind and sea currents. So, volcano erupted, land hardened, and then the animals, insects got there by hitching a ride on logs and vegetation and traveled 600 miles across the ocean and landed on the island, walked off, and started living there and mating there. That's the story. And the plant life was carried by the wind 600 miles and landed on there, and you have 500 plant species now, somehow getting there. Or the islands were formed, it rained, and Allah He originated creation. He brought all the insects, He brought forth all the animals, and He brought forth the plant life. Example 2, remote islands in the middle of the ocean with freshwater fish in lakes, ponds. So think about islands in the middle of the ocean, have lakes and ponds on them, and somehow there's freshwater fish inside of them. How is that possible? They also have animals on them and plant life. You have plants, you have islands in the middle of the ocean, have plants on them, fish on them, insects on them, snakes on them. Come on, guys, wake up. It rained on it, and Allah brought forth the life. How did plant life and animals get on the islands in the middle of the ocean? It rained on them and Allah created the plant and animal life. For example, you have Madagascar. Has unique fresh water fish with many species found nowhere else. So you have the Madagascar has islands, is an island, has lakes and ponds on it, and there's freshwater fish in there that exist nowhere else. How is it that all over the world, no matter the continent, no matter the island, no matter the land, has whenever there's a body of water, it has unique fish in it? Isn't everything supposed to evolve with each other? So how is it like doing that? Even think like you have worms on every continent, every island. You have in the middle of the ocean an island that has worms on it. How did they get there? And even with the Pangea cope, where all the continents were connected and they slowly drifted apart, still, let's talk about islands. Let's talk about Galapagos Island that even in the mainstream admit is formed by volcanic activity, right? Even then, like let's say you have a one worm. How could one worm mate and spread across entire continents, make it across oceans, make it across things? What makes more sense, guys? Look at all the animals that I showed you. Trillions and quintillions of animals around the world scattered. It's because it rained and Allah brought forth the creatures. They didn't slowly make their way everywhere across oceans and all these things. So let's keep going. So example 3, fish and ponds in lakes in strange places. Fish are somehow in ponds, lakes in the middle of the desert. So you have in the middle of the desert, a pond that formed from rain has freshwater fish in it. Somehow. At the tops of mountains in ponds and lakes. So at the tops of mountains, there might be a lake or a pond that forms from rain, somehow has freshwater fish in it. Ponds in people's backyards. You could dig a hole, it'll rain, water will fill in, and somehow fish will end up in there. None of these are connected to other bodies of water and mainly are newly formed lakes and ponds. Mainstream science copes by saying birds carried the fish eggs, which were stuck on the beak's legs, or they did poo in these ponds and the eggs survived, which is an unproven assumption. Another cope is people will say that the fish were added into these ponds and lakes. But many ponds and lakes were never stocked with fish. So I'm going to show you some examples. This example, you have unknown fish appeared in my pond. So in the guy's backyard. A few weeks ago, I spotted weird fry in my pond. I only have goldfish, so I assumed the weirdness was because they were shubakins. I fished some out today. I don't think these are goldfish at all. I'm pretty sure they were born in there though. So, guppies. He's basically asking how did these guppies, these fish, end up in his pond? Look what he says. Guppies, they were dumped. Make sure to bring them in before the cold of winter. They are good and don't bother anybody. He said, I also thought about it. This is the poster. The thing is, I live in a pretty isolated area and I'm not sure anyone could have access to my small pond. Plus, I never noticed adult guppies before. I've only followed these ones since they were tiny fry. So basically, someone added in there because how did they get in there, right? But he's saying he lives in a place where he doesn't think anyone could have dumped them. He's isolated. Then this guy says, lots of fish eggs can survive the bird digestive tracts. It's how most remote bodies of water end up with fish to any water get populated. Then someone says, but guppies don't lay eggs. They are live bearers, right? So the cope is, how did this fish get in there? They say, or maybe some birds ate some eggs and dropped them in there. But guppies are live bearers. They don't lay eggs. They like they poo out the fish alive. So it doesn't make sense. Oh, you're right. Maybe something caught one and dropped it. So a bird caught one of these fish, dropped it in their lake, and then that fish dropped out the tiny fishes alive. It doesn't drop eggs. I think the babies could be small enough to hitchhike without being noticed. Fish at the tops of mountain lakes. Yeah, but the fish eggs on ducks, I've only ever heard that one here in like Colorado and New Mexico, up in the high mountain lakes. I mean, now we drop them in by planes, right? So they actually started adding fish to the high mountain lakes to explain why they're there. But look what this guy says. But there's some of these lights up by Durango that are way up there, and there's hardly any trees around it because of the altitude. And nobody taking Bishop. This thing, and my wife's grandpa says it. They had fish up there in the third, like the 20s and the 30s. 1920, 1930, there were fish. Before they started stocking them, they would go up there and they would fish those waters up there for them, trout way up there. We're talking about an 8-hour hike from the car to get to these little lakes. And they could not figure out for the life of them how these fish got in there because there ain't no water above it and it's coming off the snow. So, how the hell are these fish getting in the lake up there if there was fish in there well over 100 years ago? On my family been in Durango since the 1800s. There is no such thing as a fish or anything the 60s. I believe he said so. So please tell me. So they're saying like, how are there fish at the tops of lakes? People say they started adding them, but this guy's saying before they started adding them, right? There were fish in 1930s and 1960s, trout. They had to hike up to the mountain 8 hours, and he has no idea how they got up there. And he's clearly not satisfied with the bird egg excuse. It doesn't make sense. If you build your own fairly large pond, do you fish finding their way by any natural means eventually? Yes, they can. I once went trout fishing in a lake in the mountains. They had no outlet except to a marsh at a lower elevation. I wondered how the fish got there. And no, they weren't transported by the Forest Service. They actually come as eggs on the feet and legs of ducks flying in from larger lakes and streams. But if you wait for this to happen, it may take a very long time. Again, the egg duck assumption. You also have this. How is it that the same species of fish live in freshwater ponds all over the world? Think about that. You have the same species of fish in the freshwater ponds all over the world, like in Australia, China, all over the world. You have a species of fish that's in every continent, and maybe like in the middle of an island in the middle of the ocean could be a species of fish that's also in Australia on the other side of the world. Same species. How is this possible? My dad dug a pond in our backyard for about a year. It was about a muddy hole in the ground. Then spontaneously it turned clear. Cattails and algae grew. After a few years, there was severe drought and the pond shrank by about a half in the area where it receded. We found dead fish, some up to 6 inches long. My dad didn't stock the pond. His theory is that the water birds bring them. He thinks the eggs stick to the water birds' feet when they walk around in the mud and they get carried from pond to pond. How did fish get into my pool? I have a swimming pool and my backyard that has not been chemically treated since November 2023. First, I saw mosquito larvae, dragonfly. Later, I found some aquatic insects. After that, I had some tadpole frogs in there, and now this fish. Like, what the hell? I'm pretty sure they're mosquito fish because they look just like one. I found currently two of those, and I'm wondering how the hell did the fish come into my pool? Any explanation? Birds, eggs, small creatures can travel on birds. Basically, again, birds put them there. Every single cope is birds. How come every lake and pond has fish? Where do the fish comes from in newly formed lakes and ponds? I have wondered the same thing, and it has never been explained to me satisfactorily. The answer that I usually get is that fish and aquatic creatures are washed in as overflow from other inhabited bodies of water. On the occasion, they may deliberately introduce them by a human interested in stocking the body of water. This has never seemed to completely adequately answer to me to what I have been told. I also heard that when a duck or aquatic bird of some type has landed in the pond with creatures in it, then it has accidentally picked up moss with eggs of those creatures and then flown to the pristine body of water and wind introduced them to new body. This really is too unlikely. However, as they do normally pick up moss and eggs on their feet, although I suppose it's always possible, it would be interesting to see what other people who have to say to answer this question. He's not satisfied with the answers. I'm new to the ponding community, but installed a rather sizable pond waterfall in my backyard. This is spring. It is complete with water plants and 4 happy koi and 1 orphan goldfish from a friend. Everything has been going great. Today we noticed 75 to 100 random small dark fish that appear minnow-like. We are shocked as to where they might have come from. Birds, perhaps? Any ideas? Our pond has not been visited by any ducks or geese that may have had eggs on their feet from the other wild ponds in the area, so we are at a loss. Again, he's finding a new species of fish in his backyard pond that he didn't add. Again, do they not see how Allah originates the creation and then repeats it? Right? So if this is a new species that doesn't exist anywhere else, then it was origination. If it was a species of fish that you can find in other places, then it was repeating. He's bringing it back in the ponds because the ponds, it'll rain, ponds will form, there'll be fish in there. The ponds will dry up, the fish will die. Then it'll rain again, the ponds will fill up again, and then the fish will come back. Allah will bring them back. How do fish get into lakes? I've been pondering this for the past few days. I haven't taken a course in environmental science since the ninth grade, but what from what I can recall is there is a water cycle where rainfall drains into inland lakes, then a variety of rivers arrive at the sea, where it evaporates and the later is deposited as participation. What I was wondering is how aquatic life gets into these lakes. How are there the same types of aquatic life in different lakes all over the world? The fact that you can find the same species of freshwater fish in lakes that aren't directly connected except through salt water establishes that fish didn't independently evolve in every lake. You have fish that are only freshwater, right? On different continents, different places in the world. How did it get from one freshwater river, lake, pond to lakes and ponds that are on other side of the world that are separated by saltwater oceans? That's what he's asking. I'm aware that salmon are born in lakes and can live in salt water before swimming upriver to reproduce in lakes. But do all fish do this? I'm also aware that the fish are capable of swimming against the current, but what about things like waterfalls? Have fish in the Great Lakes been genetically isolated from other fish for as long as the Niagara Falls have existed? Hopefully these aren't silly questions. I'm not familiar with biology, but I'm pretty curious about this. People ask these questions, right? They notice these things. Allah, do they not see how Allah originates and repeats the creation? I came up with the exact same question when I was in elementary school. There's a man-made pond outside our house, around two times meters in size and probably 1 meter deep. Then after months or maybe years, I noticed that there are fish in that pond, catfish and carp type of fish. How did they get there? How do fish naturally spread to other lakes and ponds? From a little background to my question, my uncle bought a house with a decent piece of property. He dug a large pond that has been intending to stock with fish for his grandkids, nieces, and nephews. He dug the pond a couple years ago and has been letting the natural plants grow around it, balancing the pH, and just getting it suited for fish. A few days ago, he noticed several small panfish around the edge of the pond. He didn't put them in, and this pond is pretty far from any roads or streets in his house, so it's very unlikely anyone dumped anything in. And there is no water running in and no floods connecting it to any other water. People on Facebook have suggested birds or prey dropping them in, or even bears and cougars. Those seem relatively unlikely, as I would think they would be unable to swim after being grabbed, dropped by a large predator. I'm not unconvinced. Any ideas? His dad dug a pond, a hole in his backyard, filled it with water, and eventually fish ended up in it. How did they get in there? He says no one could have added them, and he's not satisfied with the fish. He's not satisfied with the bird and the predator explanation. Because Allah is originating and repeating the creation. While my mind is blown, I literally have been losing my mind over figuring out how a random fish got in our fish tank. This fish is much larger than the guppies we bought, and we haven't bought any new plants since we first set up the tank. It's just funny to me that it came out of nowhere. So this person has a fish tank that a fish just came out of nowhere. He doesn't know how it got in there. He hasn't added anything. I was doing a bunch of reading about creating a pond on my property. In my read, I came across an article about a guy that wanted to put a fishing pond on his property. There was concern that his pond would affect the local waterways and fish population. So he got all the permits and built a special waterfall and filtration system to ensure that his pond had no contact with the indigenous waterways. A year later, he found bass babies in the pond. He assumed that some eagle had dropped part of the pregnant catch into his pond. Again, fish appearing in lakes, ponds, bodies of water separated. In the middle of the desert, it rains. A pond forms. There's fish in there. Keep going. There is fish all over the world, even in deep caves, whether in the middle of the desert, the tops of mountains, or a cave in an island in the middle of the ocean, and fish that can only survive in caves. So there is caves all around the world. We're talking in the middle of deserts, in the middle of islands, in the middle of the ocean, that fill with water, but there's fish in there. Yes, there are fish in some deep caves. Fish adapted to cave environments, known as cave fish, can be found in various underwater caves and subterranean habitats. These fish have been adapted to live in dark, sometimes even reduced. How is there fish in deep caves, in the middle of the deserts, in the middle of islands? How? You can't use the bird excuse because they're deep caves. Plus, these deep caves have unique species that only those types of fish can survive in them. So you can't have a lake fish, a pond fish, and the bird eats the eggs, flies into a cave, goes to the bottom, and drops that fish in there. And that fish is not going to survive in the deep cave because its pH level. How is it going to evolve quickly enough to survive the deep caves? Think about these guys. Allah is originating and repeating the creation. He's always creating new animals and bringing them back. So you have the devil's hole pupfish. It's a rare endangered fish that lives in a single underwater cave in the Death Valley, which is located in the Mojave Desert. The unique fish has adapted to the cave's isolated and extreme environment, including water temperatures that are too hot for most other species. So the location is that it's a fish that lives in a cave in the middle of a desert, while the world's rarest fish is trapped in the hottest desert. How is there a fish in a cave in the middle of the desert? How did it get there? Think about this, guys. Come on. And this cave, also the water, most fish species can't survive. So let's say a bird grabbed some eggs, flew across the desert, dropped the eggs in this body of water, it would die because those eggs, that fish would not be able to survive this environment. So it would have to evolve in the matter of a second when the eggs land there. But that's impossible. Or Since there's water there, Allah created the life in that pond in the middle of the desert because He's always originating and restoring the creation. While the world's rarest fish is trapped in the hottest desert. So this would be an example of originating creation, since this is a fish that's found nowhere else. You have example 3, new species of fish found in a pond in China. So you have a pond in China at a park. They discovered a new species of fish in it. How is there a new species of fish in a pond in China? So did that fish evolve in that? I thought it took thousands to millions of years for fish to evolve. So how is there a fish only found in this lake, in this pond in China? And I doubt this pond is millions of years old. Keep going. New species of plant found in a backyard. A person found a new species of plant in their backyard. Now it's upon you guys to do your own investigations, your own contemplations about what I've said. Try to find your own examples. I've focused on fish, plants, but it also applies to insects, mammals. You have examples of animals that people thought were extinct and appear up out of nowhere, insects appearing, people discovering new insects, mammals all over the world. Remember, 10,000 to 12,000 new animals discovered every year. So think about this, guys. So now we have the example of Noah's story. When Allah flooded the earth, it's expected that every plant, or like all the land plants, all the land animals, and insects would have died after the great flood. So how do we have animals everywhere in the quadrillions today? Plants everywhere. It's because after the water receded, Allah brought down the rainwater and He brought forth all the vegetation and animals again directly using the water. This is Him repeating, bringing back the creation and originating if it's something new, as well as originating the creation for every new plant and animal creation He created after the flood. Noah did not need to load every single animal onto his boat, nor plant. Allah is always originating and repeating the creation. So you have like the story of the Bible where people think that Noah put every single animal onto his boat, the giraffes, the camels, monkeys, whatever. Oh, no, impossible. They wouldn't fit. There's too many animals, right? He didn't need to, because yes, the flood would have killed everything, but when the water resided, Allah would have brought the rain, which would have brought back the vegetation and the animals, because He's using the water to do it. They're all dead land. After the flood, everything's a dead land. So He brings down the rain and He brings life to the dead. That's what He would have done. That's why we have animals everywhere today, because Allah brought the rain and He brought forth the animals again after the flood. Noah did not need to load every single animal onto his boat. Allah is always originating and repeating the creation. So if we go to 23, 27, it says, so we inspired him to construct the ship under our eyes and our inspiration. Then when comes our command and gushes forth the oven, then put into it from min kulin zawjini, pairs two. So Allah isn't instructing Noah to put every single animal onto his boat. He's saying put from every pair two. So the use of min means a part or portion of everything. If min wasn't here, it would be into it every pair, right? Two, meaning all. But the fact that min is here restricts it to a part or portion of everything. So it's not a command, put everything. It's a part or portion of everything. So the command doesn't require him to put every single animal in the boat, only min, from it, a portion of it. Whatever fits from every creature, right? And his goal is not putting everything on there so that they can come out and repopulate after the water, because that's not needed, because Allah brings life to the earth after the flood by bringing the rain. He brings the animals back. This would be more things like the cattle, for example, like the cows, like things Noah would need to eat, survive for when he's on the boat and after the flood resides. So when the waters come down, he can have camels, he can have goats, he can have chickens, whatever. Food-based pairs. And even says from every pair too. This actually also includes plants and vegetation. So he could have brought some vegetation, for example, seeds for banana trees or bananas, or he could have had pots of plants for specific fruits, vegetables, etc. So his focus is more on survival rather than putting everything on the boat so that the earth can repopulate after the flood, because very clearly Allah brings life to the earth after its death, and He's always originating and repeating the creation. He doesn't need to. That's how we have all these animals after the flood, and we don't rely on, like the Bible does, to put everything on the boat. And that's why we have way too many animals that would even fit on the boat, right? And as always, Allah knows best. So a reminder, please read the document in the description or the comments about the sign of Allah, how He gathers the animals together. Absolute proof God is in control of the moving creatures and there is a creator. Please read this document. You won't regret it, inshallah.